Hi everyone, my name is Jen, and this video is especially for caregivers who are experiencing aggressive behaviors from their child or adolescent directed towards themselves and other people in the home. This type of behavior actually has a name for it, AFCA, which stands for Aggression Towards Family and Caregivers in Childhood and Adolescence. This video specifically is going to be all about how AFCA affects siblings in the home. So let's talk about it. First of all, I'm an adoptive caregiver. I have 6 children, teens, and now young adults, and AFCA has been a part of our lives. As we've been learning more about AFCA in Canada and the impact it has on families, there are a few things that caregivers really have been saying again and again and again regarding the impact on siblings in the home. One of the first things we hear is that caregivers are experiencing a tremendous amount of guilt and shame over how unsafe some of the kids are in their home. So when we talk about AFCA, sometimes the focus tends to be on the child who is displaying aggression and the other children get kind of completely ignored. This in and of itself causes a lot of guilt for caregivers because they feel like the other children in their home have essentially become invisible. And the quiet part that needs to be said out loud are the feelings of regret. I've heard it again and again and again. I've ruined my child's life by creating this family. I'm hoping throughout this video we can give you a little bit of hope and a little bit of a thought that no, you have not ruined their life by the choices you've made to raise an extraordinary family, and that there are things that can be done to drastically improve the quality of life, the safety, and the mental health of every single person in the home, including siblings. We also might be feeling like there are absolutely no services or therapies available for children or teens or young adults who have been traumatized by aggressive behaviors in our home. And it is really easy as a caregiver to get stuck and sit in that feeling of desperation. If that's you, please keep listening. In a fit of emotion a few years ago, I actually asked one of my children the very question, did I ruin your life by some of the decisions I made with our family? And I think I was expecting what I've heard lots of people, other people have heard of, yeah, you ruined my life. This is horrible. I hate this. I hate my life. I hate what I'm doing. Sometimes teenagers really spout off like that. That's completely normal. But I was kind of blown away by her response, which was an emphatic no, absolutely not. I love my siblings, I love my family, and it makes me sad that you think that you ruined my life as a caregiver by creating this family. It really speaks to the heart of that deep down, they really do care about each other. We might have multiple children in the home who are all aggressive and they're all treating each other with aggression. We might have one child that's very aggressive and others that are not and are on the receiving end. There's many different dynamics, but they care about each other. They love each other. And this isn't necessarily the life they wanted, but hopefully it'll take some of the guilt off of your shoulders as a caregiver to hear that by and large, most children aren't blaming you personally for the situation they're in. That same daughter is into art and animation, and she actually made this little animation called Finding the Light that I wanted to share with you all. And in it, she had 2 kids who are stuck somewhere really dark she said it was in a forest. And in our AFCA program, we often talk about a tornado or a storm, and that's kind of what it looked like to me, storm clouds, but she said it was kind of a stormy forest. And both children were isolated in the forest, and they both had a candle and they both had a light, but they could not find their way out. And at the end of this really short video, they found each other and they took each other's hand, and together they walked out of that forest. And when I watched it, I thought, gosh, that's exactly what kids are experiencing in AFCA families. They're in this storm, they're in this dark place. Each child and teen in that home has absolute value and carries their own little piece of light, but all of the behaviors have isolated themselves from each other so much that they can't find their way to restore that relationship, and they can't find their way out of the situation they're in. So then the question becomes, as a caregiver, what can we do about this? If this is the state of our home, if this is how children are feeling in our home, is there something we can do to help? Part of our organization's approach to AFCA is a method called nonviolent resistance, or NVR. And a key part of the NVR program is something called relational gestures. And I was thinking that I think the relational gestures don't just work for the child or youth in our home who is displaying aggression. Those types of gestures are also really important for the children in our home who may not be displaying aggression. So if you feel like there are children in your home who are being completely ignored, not being given as much attention as they need to be because you're so busy putting out fires with one child, one of the things you could do is to kind of commit to showing love to that child who's being ignored in little tiny ways. So we have kind of like a printout that we like to use, but you could write this out on a piece of paper and kind of go through, if you've heard of the love languages, maybe your child experiences feeling loved in different ways. But what are some ways that I could show my child words of encouragement? Could I give them a little gift? Quality time. There are so many different little things that maybe have been on the back burner that need to be put back to the front again. And if you can think about it as much as you're a whole family unit, your relationships with each of your children also need to be boundaried a bit. So how you're feeling about one child, and if that relationship isn't going well, is there a way we can kind of in our mind boundary that to that child? And that doesn't necessarily spill over into all of our relationships with our other children. And try to shut out all the noise of everything else. Another big piece of NVR is restorative time. So as much as us as caregivers need space and time away from the child or youth in our home who is displaying aggression, so does everyone else in the family. So does the sibling have special activities they get to do? Do they have a sport they get to attend? Do they get to go out with grandma and do fun things, go shopping or go out to eat? Do they get to just go outside and play in the yard without their siblings so that they can have time to restore themselves? Do they have a room in the house that's a safe place just for them that they can go into and spend time away, maybe lock the door so that nobody's coming in and bothering them? Do they have time and space to restore? If they don't, that is something that you can work on with them and try to help them so that you're helping them find their way out of that scary dark forest. Another key area of NVR are supporters. So we tend to brainstorm who are our supporters as caregivers. If you want to know about that, we have some more videos about supporters. If you want to know about the different components of NVR, we also have some on restorative time and relational gestures. If you can think not just about who your supporters need to be as a caregiver and who your child displaying aggression, who their supporters are, what about the other children in the home? Who do they have to call on besides you as the parent? Do they have a mentor in their life, a teacher, an EA, somebody at the local church or community center or place of faith? Do they have a neighbor? Who are their supporters that when things are going really poorly at home, maybe they can text them or reach out. Maybe they can spend some time going to Tim Hortons and having a donut and a special drink. How do they get the support they need outside of your family unit and outside of your home? So brainstorm some supports for them and involve them in the process. And finally, I want to talk about some barriers that we need to overcome that might stop us from doing all of the things I just mentioned that could help. One of the biggest barriers is our personal belief system. If you're saying, I should do this, I shouldn't do this, where did that rule come from? Where did that belief come from? And is it actually helpful for your life? So I'll give you an example, vacations. So it had long been a belief system of mine that every single person in your family had to go on every single family vacation together. Because if you didn't, that was unfair, that was rude to other people in the family, that was showing favoritism. However, when we are raising highly complex children and youth, that belief might not serve us very well. We're afraid of being judged if we took 2 children and went somewhere and left another few children at home. But who says? Who says you have to do it that way? Who says you can't have two family vacations and you have one child along for one family vacation and another child along for this family vacation? It doesn't mean that you're not being equitable and that you're not caring and loving for all of your children, but who says you have to do everything together all the time? The same thing might be true for various other aspects of life. For example, some families choose to have their children each going to different schools to keep them safe. And that's sometimes a creative solution that we just don't even think about because we're just so used to this is how you do it. This is how families work. There's also the myth of the nuclear family, that the nuclear family, two-parent home with their children, that's the best way to raise children. And sometimes it's really not, especially when you're raising children who have who are neurodiverse, who have experienced a great deal of trauma, who may have attachment disorders, brain-based disorders. Sometimes the safest and best thing for siblings could be that they do not live under the same roof. And I'm here to say that's okay. You are still a family. Who decides what makes a family a family? I think it should be you that decides what makes a family, and all families look different. You don't need to feel like you need to constantly explain yourself and apologize. Do what works for your family. Do what's best for your kids. If you have a therapist for the child in your home that's on the receiving end of aggression and it's not working, switch therapists. It's okay to do that. It's okay to look around until you find a good fit of someone who's really, really informed in secondary trauma and vicarious trauma. It's okay to kind of pivot and change what you're doing to what works for your family. And as you put this stuff into practice, please know that there are so many of us out there rooting for you. You're doing an incredibly hard job. This is not an easy life to live. And you are absolutely doing the best that you can. You are not ruining anyone's life. And I would bet that the kids and teens in your home actually feel loved and feel love for others a lot more than they're saying, a lot more than they're letting on. And I hope that brings you encouragement today. Good luck on the journey, everyone.